A mere grade 1 Supreme God actually has 2 Supreme Will Realm experts protecting him. I've really learned something new. Meng Tuo sneered. A mere grade 1 Supreme God actually let a Supreme Willpower Realm expert carry a willpower treasure to attack. Furthermore, the existence who gave this order is very likely your Void Emperor, Your Excellency. I've learned something. The reincarnation will also sneered. Then he bowed to the Moongazer Serpent's will in the sky. Greetings, Sister Moongazer. After so many years, Soul Heaven, your mouth is still as sweet as before. The will of the Moongazer Serpent smiled faintly. The reincarnation? Will chuckled. I'm only here to kill the common people's regal this time to make myself feel comfortable and take revenge for being scolded by the Void Emperor because my unfilial descendant joined the common. People's regal, it has nothing to do with the Void Emperor, Mengto said stubbornly. So after the Void Emperor scolded you, he rewarded you with this reality cube that can change reality for no reason to deal with the common people's regal? Meng Tuo, your lies are too clumsy. The reincarnation will sneered. I borrowed this reality cube from the Void Emperor a long time ago to fight in other alternate universes. It wasn't lent to me by your excellency to deal with the common people's regal, Meng Tuo said, stubborn. The reincarnation will shook his head. As for what happened when your corpse is brought before the Supreme Will, everything will naturally be revealed, the will of the Moongazer Serpent said calmly. You two low-level Supreme Will Realm cultivators want to kill me in my current state? I'll show you the true strength of the absolute beast. Mengto roared and took the lead to attack the will of the Moongazer Serpent in the full moon. The two of them instantly fought. The will of the Moongazer Serpent held a divine sword in its hand. When it swung its sword to fight, it was like a top dancer performing a sword dance. It looked beautiful and ethereal. On the other hand, Meng Tuo used pure beast tactics. He looked fierce and desolate, and every move he made was dangerous and ruthless. The battle between the two looked like a battle between a ferocious beast and a fairy. Sister Moongazer, let me help you. The reincarnation held the 6 paths of reincarnation sword and flew into the full moon to fight them. As Zhou Fight watched, he frowned. This was because he discovered that even if the reincarnation will and the Moongazer Serpent will fought Meng Tuo 2 against 1, Meng Tuo, who had transformed into a peerless beast, could easily suppress these 2 experts. What a powerful incarnation. Will technique, Zhou Fight muttered. Absolute heaven beast. Zhou Fight did not find any information about such an existence in the bloodline inheritance in his mind. If he was not wrong, it should be a special beast that existed in some other universe or the ultimate void. It had to be said that this unknown beast was indeed very powerful. He wondered how the reincarnation will and the Moongazer Serpent's will would deal with this guy next. If he couldn't deal with it, what should he do? Right at that moment, a turnaround had occurred. The will of the Moongazer Serpent suddenly retreated more than 100 light years. He looked at the absolute beast and extended his jade-like hand. He saw a 2-colored fire lotus flower that intersected, green and red slowly spinning in his palm. Your absolute beast incarnation should be from another great cosmos, right? The will of the Moongazer Serpent smiled faintly. Then I'll use one too. I happen to obtain a treasure from the great cosmos of the other world, from the ultimate void, to deal with you. Look at how strong your incarnation of the absolute beast is. My treasure is still the best. Let me tell you first. My treasure is called the Green Fire Red Lotus. Go. He shouted coldly as the green fire red lotus in his hand instantly transformed into a green-red stream of light that shot towards the absolute heaven beast. When the absolute heaven beast saw this green-red stream of light flying towards it, it immediately felt an extremely shocking sense of danger. It was as if, as long as it touched the green fire red lotus, it would immediately be injured. If it faced the green fire red lotus head-on, it might even die. What level of treasure is this? Meng Tuo felt his hair stand on end. With his current incarnation of an absolute beast, if he could feel this, wouldn't he die without a doubt if he faced the green fire red lotus under normal circumstances? There was no time to think. He immediately wanted to dodge the attack of the cyan fire red lotus. However, right at this moment, the reincarnation could clearly see how terrifying this move of its allies was. Seeing that the absolute heaven beast wanted to dodge, he immediately raised the 6 paths of reincarnation sword in front of him, blocking half of his face. He enunciated each word clearly. Supreme will skill, 6 seals. Buzz. The 6 paths of reincarnation sword trembled slightly before suddenly emitting 6 extremely dazzling lights. These 6 rays of light shot towards Meng Tuo and enveloped him. Behind Meng Tuo's light were 6 huge wheels slowly spinning, revealing the 6 illusions of the heavenly Tao wheel, the human Tao, the Asura Tao, the Hell Tao, the Hungry Ghost Tao, and the Beast Tao. Under the suppression of the power of the 6 paths of the 6 huge wheels, Meng Tuo immediately felt that it was difficult for him to move. For a moment, he could not escape from his original spot and could not dodge the incoming green fire red lotus. Sensing that the danger that was enough to kill he was about to descend, the absolute heaven beast roared at the sky. With the eruption of his potential, his body doubled in size. A large amount of divine blood seeped out of the surface of his chaotic fur. The 6 huge wheels behind him seemed to be unable to suppress the other party as they began to tremble. The reincarnation, Will's expression changed. He did not expect that he would not be able to suppress this unparalleled beast, even if he took out his intrinsic will-holy artifact. If the other party broke free of the seal, causing the green fire-red lotus of the Moongazer, Serpent's will to not be able to attack the absolute heaven beast and let him escape, the 2 of them would not be able to deal with the absolute heaven beast. He was extremely anxious, but it was useless. At this critical moment, a calm and deep voice sounded, "All the land under the sky belongs to the king." A 9-colored domain instantly appeared under Meng Tuo's feet and quickly spread out in all directions. The reincarnation will was stunned for a moment before looking over hopefully. When he saw that the existence who released the domain was Zhou Fight, a look of disappointment immediately appeared on his face. He could understand Zhou Fight's intention to help they, but Zhou Fight was only a grade 1 supreme god. How could the supreme god level domain that he used have any effect on enemies at the supreme will realm, let alone the middle level supreme will realm? The reincarnation. Will had already silently agreed that Meng Tuo would not be affected by Zhou Fight's domain. However, in the next moment, something that stunned the reincarnation will happened. After Zhou Fight released the domain skill, all. The land and the world belongs to the king. He immediately continued. Establishment of domain rule, fixed body. As soon as he finished speaking, the absolute heaven beast that was about to break free of the 6 seals suddenly seemed to be suppressed and could not move, so it could not break out of the seal and avoid the green fire-red lotus that flew over. In the blink of an eye, the green fire-red lotus instantly crossed a distance of light years and passed through the neck of the absolute heaven beast. Absolute heaven beast's eyes were filled with shock, anger, and disbelief. Then his head fell off, and his entire body burned with flames. Then he turned into ashes and dissipated. Immediately after, his body rapidly shrunk. In less than a few seconds, he returned to his normal size. The Moongazer Serpent's will and the reincarnation will quickly flew closer and saw that the majestic and insufferably arrogant absolute heaven beast had become a headless, ultimate void monster. There was still a portion of chaos-colored hair on the surface of his divine body. Clearly, it was the effect of the incarnation of the absolute heaven beast on him. Just like that, the reincarnation. Will said in shock. He thought that even if he joined forces with the will of the Moongazer Serpent, he would still have to fight the other party for a few days and nights to determine the victor. He was even done. He would stall until the other party's absolute heaven beast incarnation ended before going all out to deal with him. He did not expect that the other party was already dead, just as he had this thought. A Supreme Will Realm existence died just like that. This was an existence at the Supreme Will Realm. Whether it was the Void Emperor, the Supreme Will, or the Crimson Overlord, their hearts would ache for a long time if one of them died. They had to take revenge. Even though my Kai and Fire read, Lotus just now has the power of an upper-level Supreme Will Realm. If the enemy wants to dodge, it's actually relatively easy to dodge. The will of the Moongazer Serpent said, he should be able to break free quickly and escape my attack, even if Brother Soul Heaven cast the 6 sealing techniques and temporarily sealed his movements. When the reincarnation will heard this, he thought for a moment and nodded. Just from the scene just now, he was indeed about to be unable to withstand the power that the absolute heaven beast suddenly erupted with, almost making it break free from the seal. Thinking of this, he could not help but look at Zhou Fight with a complicated expression. The will of the Moongazer Serpent looked at the other party with a complicated expression. The domain law skill used by a grade 1 supreme god actually made a middle stage Supreme Will Realm existence unable to move for an instant, even though it was only for an instant, and in this instant, the 6 seals of the reincarnation will accounted for more than half. It was still extremely shocking. He was only a grade 1 Supreme God, if he advanced to the Supreme Will realm, what would happen to be able to do such a shocking thing? At the same time, at this moment, Zhou Feit's face was very pale. A bitter smile appeared on his face as he felt the supreme divine power that was almost dried up in his body. This was the first time he had exhausted all his divine power after he mastered the king law skill. From this, it could be seen how much he had consumed to use the Lord's law skill. All the land in the world belongs to the king, as expected of a middle-level supreme willpower existence. I only used the self-made law of immobilization to immobilize him for an instant. It actually drained all my divine power in an instant. If the blue fire red lotus of the Moongazer Serpent's will had arrived a little later, this law skill would probably have begun to extract my life force or even luck to suppress the other party. Zhou Feit was a little afraid. What he cared about the most was his luck. If his luck suffered a loss, even if it was just a small loss, his heart would ache. Fortunately, the blue fire red lotus of the Moongazer Serpent's will was reliable enough to kill the peerless beast in time. Just then, the cold voice of the will of the Moongazer Serpent sounded in Zhou Feit's ears. "Your Excellency, common people's regal, do you have time to come over for a chat?" Zhou Feit was stunned for a moment before agreeing without hesitation. Then, he quickly arrived in front of the Reincarnation Will and the Moongazer Serpent's will. "Greetings, Lord Reincarnation Will." "Greetings, Lord Will of the Moongazer Serpent," Zhou Feit said respectfully. The Reincarnation Will sighed unhappily and said, "We're usually calling each other elder brothers. Why are you so distant from me in front of him, should our relationship be underground?" Zhou Feit was speechless. "What nonsense are you spouting?" The will of the Moongazer Serpent rebuked. "Can't you see that this wise brother of yours is thinking of you? Is that why he addresses you so formally?" "Why should I care about this between me and my brother?" The Reincarnation Will waved his hand in disdain, then smiled and said, "Brother, in the future, no. Matter who you are in front of, even in front of the Supreme Will, we will call each other brothers. There's no need to follow the rules. Since brother has said so, I won't stand on ceremony anymore. That's how it should be." The Reincarnation Will was very satisfied. Then he remembered the serious matter and asked curiously, "Brother, was it really you who used that law skill to stop the absolute heaven beast that Meng Tuo transformed into for an instant?" As soon as he said that, even the will of the Moongazer Serpent looked over. He was really curious. That was a Supreme Will Realm existence, and a middle-level Supreme Will Realm existence at that. Even he had to go all out against such a top-notch expert. Such an existence could actually be suppressed by a Grade 1 Supreme God using a Supreme God-level law skill? He couldn't quite believe it. However, when he recalled the scene just now, he seemed to have no choice but to believe it. "It's me." Zhou Feit nodded. "How'd you do that?" The will of the Moongazer Serpent could not help but exclaim, "My law level, all the land in the world belongs to the king. Although it's only a Grade 1 Supreme God law skill at the moment, he can be considered the best among all. The domain skills. Even when facing the will domain of the Supreme Will Realm, my all the land in the world belongs to the king can still suppress the other party to a certain extent," Zhou Feit said truthfully. There was nothing to hide. After all, the other party had seen it just now. The Reincarnation Will and the Moongazer Serpent's will looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. A Grade 1 Supreme God's domain law skill could actually suppress the will. Domain of the Supreme Will Realm to a certain extent? This sounded unbelievable. However, from the suppression of the absolute heaven beast just now, Zhou Feit's words were undoubtedly true, but it was precisely because of this that they was even more shocked. This meant that this law skill of the common people's regal had very shocking potential. When he was a Grade 1 Supreme God, he could suppress a middle-level Supreme Willpower Realm expert for an instant. When the other party advanced to the true Supreme Will Realm, he's law skill could completely suppress upper-level Supreme Will Realm experts, peak Supreme Will Realm experts, and might even be able to touch the level of will. They looked at each other, and then at Zhou Feit, who looked normal. They felt that the Supreme Will had made the right to the choice to choose the common people's regal as the Supreme Lord's last reserve army. His future was simply immeasurable. The Moongazer Serpent's will looked at Zhou Zhou with even more admiration after it recovered from its shock. "He said, "I am the will of the Moongazer Serpent, a subordinate of the Great Lunar Divine Court. I am here on the orders of the Supreme Will to protect you. I thought it would be nothing serious, but ever since you survived unscathed under the true blood avatar of the Supreme Will Realm, I realized that you were about to face a huge crisis. I didn't expect that not only would danger come, it would also be a supreme will realm existence with a will treasure. At this point, his tone suddenly turned cold. The ultimate void race is really bold, if it weren't for the fact that our main forces were all fighting the illusionary army in the Land of Dusk. How could they have the chance to show off here? Now, they actually dare to plot against our Supreme Lord Reserve Army. They broke the rules on the battlefield. Need to return to the Supreme Will immediately and report this matter to him, Common People's Regal. We'll meet again. At the end, the Moongazer Serpent's will and Zhou Zhou's tone became gentle again. Thank you, Lord Will of the Moongazer Serpent, Zhou Fight said respectfully. The Moongazer Serpent's will covered its mouth and chuckled. Little fellow, I admire you very much. You can also call me Sister, like the reincarnation will. Sister Moongazer, Zhou Fight immediately ordered. The will of the Moongazer Serpent nodded in satisfaction and extended its right hand. Something shocking happened to Zhou Fight. The full moon in the sky quickly shrank. In less than 3 to 4 breaths, it became the size of a palm and landed in the hands of the Moongazer Serpent's will. He raised his jade-like hand and saw the full moon fly over from his hand and land in front of Zhou Fight. Zhou Fight looked at the full moon. The full moon emitted a cold moonlight, but unlike on the surface, Zhou Fight, who had extremely strong perception, could sense an extremely shocking power of will from the cold full moon. He had a feeling that once the might of will contained in the full moon erupted, it would definitely produce earth-shattering power. It might not even be inferior to the green fire red lotus that killed the absolute heaven beast just now. At this moment, he heard the reincarnation will say enviously, Dear brother, Sister Moongazer is so good to you. Even your Sister Moongazer needs to absorb the power of the great lunar origin emitted by the great lunar star for 100,000 years to accumulate one full moon. Its explosive power is even much stronger than the green fire red lotus just now. Even an upper-level supreme willpower expert might be injured by it if caught off guard. Hurry up and thank Sister Moongazer. When Zhou Fight heard this, he was shocked. This seemingly ordinary full moon was actually much stronger than the green fire red lotus just now. Furthermore, even an existence like the Moongazer Serpent's will could only create 1 in 100,000 Daondo years. It's too valuable. I can't take it, Zhou Fight immediately ordered. So what if it is valuable? The will of the Moongazer Serpent smiled faintly. If it's too cheap, this divine being won't be able to bring it out for a rising star like you. Take it. Since I decided to give something away, I didn't want to take it back. Moreover, you've already provoked an enemy of the Supreme Will Realm. There will definitely be many dangers in the future. With this, it might be able to save your life in the future. Don't dwell on it. Just take it that I'm investing in you. In the future, when you advance to the unmatched Will Realm, treat me to a cup of fine wine. I'll feel that this effort is worth it. Zhou Fight was stunned. Take it. No one dares to reject Sister Moongazer's gift. The reincarnation? Will also smiled. The will of the Moongazer Serpent smiled. At this point, Zhou Fight couldn't refuse. He reached out and took the full moon. Then, he reverently said, Thank you, Sister Moongazer. In the future, I will definitely bring a pot of the best wine in the myriad worlds to visit Sister Moongazer. Oh, Wang Yu smiled. This smile made his beauty even more soul-stirring. Then I'll wait for your wine. Zhou Fight acknowledged seriously. The reincarnation? Will chuckled at the side as if it was very happy to see the two gods have such a relationship. With this matter settled, there shouldn't be any enemies coming after you for the time being. I'm going back to report to the Supreme Will. I'll see you around, the will of the Moongazer Serpent said. Take care, Sister Moongazer, Zhou Fight hurriedly said. When the matters in the netherworld are more or less settled, I'll provide wine to catch up with Sister Moongazer. The reincarnation? Will smiled. The will of the Moongazer Serpent grinned and nodded. Then Hiei waved his hand and saw Meng Tuo's corpse and his treasures, including the reality cube, being put into his moonsleeve. Then he turned into a ray of moonlight and instantly disappeared in front of the two gods. Zhou Fight did not feel that it was a pity. The corpse of a Supreme Will Realm cultivator was indeed tempting. However, he did not use much strength the entire time. He only used the all the land in the world belongs to the king to assist the other party at the end. Even though his support was also very important, it would be too ridiculous to want the corpse of an entire Supreme Will Realm existence and all the other loots with just this bit of credit. Furthermore, even though the effects of the reality cube were astonishing, his grade was too high. That was a willpower treasure. Even if he exhausted the divine might and willpower of all the god spirits in the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, he would probably not be able to activate the willpower treasure and be of any use. Therefore, even though Zhou Fight knew that the reality cube was of an extremely high grade, he did not have much desire. Brother, you've made friends with a big shot this time. At this moment, the reincarnation Will patted Zhou Fight's shoulder and said happily, "This Sister Moongazer is the biological sister of your excellency, the regal Great Lunar, who rules the Moon Goddess Court. Her status in the Moon Goddess Court is second only to the regal Great Lunar. Among all the Supreme Willpower Realm experts, Sister Moongazer's strength can be ranked in the top 10. The regal Great Lunar even personally commented on him, saying that he might reach his position in the future. If you offend any experts in the future, you can just use Sister Moongazer's name. No one will take the risk of offending Sister Moongazer to continue finding trouble with you." Zhou Fight was surprised. He did not expect this Moongazer serpent's will to have such a powerful background. Furthermore, a powerhouse with such status and strength was actually so close and gentle to him. He had even formed a brother-sister relationship with him. Zhou Fight felt that even though he had encountered an attack by a Supreme Willpower Realm expert today, he seemed to have benefited from this disaster and befriended such a peerless expert. Returning to his senses, he looked at the battlefield. At this moment, the army under him was engaged in an intense battle with the ultimate void army that Meng Tuo had brought. Even though the God Spirit army under him and Lord of 10,000 Evils was very strong, however, it was obvious that Meng Tuo's army was stronger, especially the 10 quasi-supreme willpower realm experts. They were almost looking down on the God Spirit army under them as they killed at will. In a short period of time, more than 10 supreme gods under Zhou Fight and Lord of 10,000 Evils had died. As for the other Master God tiers, the number of true God tier and ordinary God spirits who died was countless. Zhou Fight's expression darkened. This was the greatest loss he had ever suffered. He had conquered so many enemies, but this was the first time he had suffered such a huge setback. However, when he thought about how the other party had even sent a Supreme Willpower Realm expert over and even lost a Willpower treasure, he suddenly calmed down. After all, the other party seemed to have suffered even greater losses. The reincarnation. Will also noticed Zhou Fight's gaze. He followed Zhou Fight's gaze and saw the situation on the battlefield. His expression turned cold. These ultimate void bastards. Not only did you shamelessly send a Supreme Willpower Realm expert over, but you also brought so many ultimate void god spirits and caused you to lose so many subordinates. I'll help you get rid of these guys. Then I'll help you resurrect your fallen subordinates. He said, "Brother, you can revive my subordinates?" Zhou Fight looked at him in surprise. "Is that very strange?" The reincarnation will smiled and said, "I'm the reincarnation will. My greatest ability is to control reincarnation and let all life forms and God spirits reincarnate. With a little change in the rules of reincarnation, I can let life forms and God spirits be reborn. To me, it will only consume some willpower. For me, even if it's a supreme god, I can make him reincarnate with a thought, not to mention true gods and master gods. Furthermore, his cultivation realm won't be lost at all. I can even revive a supreme willpower realm expert." He sounded very confident when he said this. He was the reincarnation will of the myriad worlds, after all. In terms of reviving life forms and God spirits, he claimed to be second. Apart from the supreme will, who dared to claim to be first? That's right. Zhou Fight muttered to himself. Why didn't I think of that? Previously, he had been vexed about how to revive the dead supreme god. However, because he had never encountered the fall of the supreme god before, even though he was vexed. He did not think too much about it and did not take much action. It was not until he encountered such a scene that he truly realized that it was impossible to rely on the supreme god of death, Thanatos. Thanatos could only revive a grade 1 supreme god, and he could only revive one grade 1 supreme god at a time. After he was done reviving, he still needed to rest for a while before he could continue reviving the other grade 1 supreme gods. In the past, it was still all right. It could barely satisfy his resurrection needs. However, as the number of supreme gods under him increased, especially when quasi-supreme will subordinates appeared, Thanatos' resurrection ability clearly couldn't keep up with his needs, and now it was a situation that Thanatos could not deal with. Unexpectedly, his brother's words were like a bright light in the fog, directly illuminating the path he needed. That's right. What was he worried about? The existence that was best at resurrection was right beside him. He actually did not think of it for a moment, so much so that he even wanted to nurture a subordinate who could resurrect a large number of supreme gods. He could not nurture such a talent in a short period of time. At this moment, Zhou Fight felt as if he had been hit by a surprise. He felt enlightened, so the answer was right beside me all along. He had something to say to the reincarnation will, but at this moment, he heard the reincarnation will say, I have to resolve the current war quickly. Otherwise, if more gods die, especially if there are more supreme gods, it will be a little troublesome for me to revive. The reincarnation will said, it was true that he could revive god spirits. Even those in the supreme will realm could be revived. However, if too many powerhouses died, it would be more tiring for him to revive. When Zhou Fight heard this, he immediately retracted the words he wanted to say. Then he looked down. At the battlefield, he had to resolve the current matter before he could tell the reincarnation will his thoughts. Brother. 59 Zhou Fight said, I'll settle the battlefield first. However, I'm afraid I still need Brother to take action against the 10 ultimate Void Race members at the Quasi-Supreme Will Realm. No problem. The reincarnation will agreed immediately. At the same time, he was also very curious about how his wise brother would deal with these hundreds of billions of gods and the 100 supreme gods. The reincarnation will had naturally seen the abilities of his brother. But facing enemies that far exceeded his side, what methods would his brother use to deal with them? The reincarnation will quickly saw it. Zhou Fight raised his right hand and faced the battlefield below with his palm. All the people in the world are the king's subjects. Swoosh! A 9-colored domain instantly spread out in all directions with Zhou Fight as the center. In the blink of an eye, it covered the battlefield below and enveloped the armies of both sides. Then, Zhou Fight felt that the supreme divine power that he had painstakingly recovered in his body was instantly exhausted. Zhou Fight smiled, bitterly. He had really expended a lot of energy today. However, when he saw the scene before him, a smile appeared on his face again. The God Spirit army of the ultimate Void Race on the battlefield below almost instantly gave up on fighting. They put away their weapons almost at the same time and bowed in the direction of Zhou Fight with a fanatical expression. Greetings, Your Majesty. These were more than 200 billion God Spirits, more than 3 billion true God tiers, 100,000 Master God tiers, and more than 100 Supreme Gods. Other than the 10 quasi-supreme willpower realm experts and the other Supreme Gods above Grade 2, the other God Spirits of the ultimate Void Race all surrendered. This scene immediately shocked the reincarnation will who had witnessed the entire process. He opened his mouth wide and forgot to close it for a moment. Zhou Fight did not notice the expression of the reincarnation will. He was looking at the incite defection notification that appeared in front of him, Lord Law Skill. Hint, you have used the Grade 1 Supreme God Law Skill, Land of Earth, a minister of the king. You have successfully changed the thoughts and wills of the life forms in the domain and turned them into subjects loyal to you. Congratulations. You have obtained the loyalty of 218th, 912th, and 732, 381. Ultimate Void God Spirits, 3,782, and then 382, 821. Ultimate Void. True God Tiers, 103,173. Ultimate Void Master God Tiers, and 111 Ultimate Void Supreme Gods. After reading it, the corners of Zhou Fight's lips curled into a crooked smile. The gains of the land of Earth, a minister of the king today, were simply enough to shock the myriad worlds. Didn't they see that even Brother Reincarnation was dumbfounded? They had just seen that all the land in the world belongs to the king could suppress supreme willpower realm experts. However, he did not know that the potential of his land of Earth, a minister of the king, was not inferior to the domain. Law skill, all the land in the world belongs to the king. Brother, did you make this yourself? The stuttering voice of the reincarnation will sounded beside Zhou Fight while he was looking at the law skill in front of him. Didn't my brother see it? Zhou Fight asked with a smile. The reincarnation will widened its eyes and looked at him. After a long time it smiled bitterly and said, You won't lack experts under you anymore with such a law skill, because the enemy is your origin. Zhou Fight nodded. The Son of Destiny, or the incite defection ability provided by the Land of Earth, a minister of the king, they had greatly accelerated his growth for him to develop so quickly along the way. The reincarnation. Will sighed after he finished speaking. It's a pity that Sister Moongazer didn't see this scene. Otherwise, he might have given you a better gift. Zhou Fight chuckled and did not say anything. He had never hidden the law skills. He had. The will of the Moongazer serpent might even protect him in the future. Then he would sooner or later know that the common people's regal had a perverted law skill like the land of earth, a minister of the king, which was not inferior to the all the land in the world belongs to the king. However, Zhou did not covet this favor to begin with, so he naturally did not care about what the reincarnation will said. Then, the reincarnation will did not say anything else, and immediately flew down to deal with the 10 quasi-supreme will realm experts. Even though there were many quasi-supreme willpower realm experts, they were far inferior to true supreme willpower realm experts, especially experts like the reincarnation will, who were not weak even among supreme willpower realm experts. In less than a few breaths, these 10 quasi-supreme willpower realm experts died in the hands of the reincarnation will. He came in front of Zhou and threw the 10 quasi-supreme willpower experts to him. But Zhou was about to say something when he heard reincarnation will whisper, "Brother, I heard that you have many supreme divine artifacts in your possession. Can I trade some with you? I also have some supreme god subordinates under me. Some of them are still using master god tier divine artifacts." Zhou was stunned for a moment before he laughed. "How could I forget my brother? Never mind the deal. I'll directly give brother 100,000 supreme divine artifacts. It's up to you whether you want to use it for yourself or trade with other god spirits." Zhou waved his hand and said directly. Then he took out a world ring and handed it to the reincarnation will. What a joke. He had obtained as many as 300,000 supreme divine artifacts yesterday. What was giving 100,000 supreme divine artifacts to his brother? The supreme divine artifacts in his hands were really endless after all. He really didn't know what to do with it apart from giving it away and making deals. The Supreme Will's eyes widened when he heard that 1,000 supreme divine artifacts. Wasn't that the number of supreme divine artifacts that the Supreme Will had traded with his brother last time? How long had it been, and his brother already had another 100,000 supreme divine artifacts? He was very shocked. However, at the same time, he looked at the world ring that contained 100,000 supreme divine artifacts in front of him and was very touched. This was his brother. "Dude?" The reincarnation will sighed. "It's not like I didn't get to know this guy for nothing." He had thought this way countless times. Then he didn't stand on ceremony and directly accepted the world rings. When he saw the 100,000 supreme divine artifacts inside through the power of his will, the smile on his face immediately became even more obvious. On the other hand, Zhou looked down at the battlefield. It was because his brother had already killed all 10 quasi-supreme willpower experts. As for the remaining supreme gods who had not been instigated by incite, defection, they were all killed by Bai Yun's army. Therefore, at this moment, they had completely won the war. Bai Yun was leading the army to clean up the battlefield. Zhou nodded slightly, even though they had encountered an extremely terrifying enemy today. Fortunately, after experiencing some twists and turns, they still became the final victor, brother. At this moment, the voice of the reincarnation will sounded in his ear. Zhou looked over. The reincarnation will smiled and said, "Show me your formless book." Zhou was stunned, but he did not hesitate. He took out the formless book and handed it to the reincarnation will. To be honest, he was a little disappointed with the formless book today. Today, he had summoned 10 true blood avatars of the reincarnation will in a row, but in the face of the absolute heaven beast, he could not even stop it. In a short while, the 10 true blood avatars were defeated by the other party one after another. It did not delay for long. Fortunately, the Supreme Will had secretly arranged for the Moongazer Serpent's will to protect him. Otherwise, he would really be in danger today. Therefore, after today's series of events, he more or less despised the formless book. After receiving the formless book, the reincarnation, Will also noticed Zhou gaze. He smiled and said, "Brother, do you think this formless book is useless?" Zhou hesitated for a moment and nodded honestly. "Ha ha ha." The reincarnation Will smiled and said, "Don't think that way. Actually, this formless book is quite strong. However, if you want to unleash the strongest effect of the formless book, you first need to give it blood of strong experts. For example, the true blood of an upper-level Supreme Willpower Realm expert, the true blood of a peak Supreme Willpower Realm expert, or even the true blood of a Willpower Realm expert. This formless book can be considered a powerful will, Holy artifact, even among the many will holy artifacts, if you have their true blood and summon their true blood avatar. Secondly, you still need to raise your strength to the supreme will realm. I know that the amount of supreme divine power in your body can be said to be endless. Even among the many supreme gods, you can be said to be number one, so you can use this will holy artifact. But crossing ranks is still crossing ranks. If you want to witness the true power of the formless book, you still need the power of the supreme will of the supreme will realm. The formless book, driven by the supreme. Divine power is actually far weaker than the formless book driven by the power of the supreme will. The reincarnation will said. Zhou nodded thoughtfully. That was logical. He had underestimated the formless book. Here you go. Right at that moment, the reincarnation will stretched out his right hand and saw a drop of blood floating in his hand. This drop of blood was very strange. It looked illusory, but had a strange texture, as if it existed between illusion and reality. This is, Zhou said in surprise. This is a drop of true blood from an upper-level supreme willpower, expert of the illusionary race. I obtained it from him after killing this wingman with my other colleagues. It's useless for me to hold on to it. You can try putting it in your formless book. He was an upper-level supreme willpower realm expert when I was alive. The true blood incarnation formed by the true blood should be of some help to you. The reincarnation. Will chuckled. Thank you, brother. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. That's very helpful. Even if the true blood incarnation formed by the true blood of an upper-level supreme will realm expert only had 1% of its strength when it was alive, it was enough to match ordinary middle-level supreme will realm experts. If it was 10% of its strength when it was alive, its strength was definitely the strongest in the middle-level supreme will realm. It was definitely more than enough to protect itself. The reincarnation will nodded and opened the formless book, placing this drop of true blood on a page of the formless book. Then he handed it to Zhou. After Zhou received it, he immediately sensed the exact effect of this drop of true blood. In the end, what surprised him was that after this drop of true blood from an upper-level supreme willpower realm expert was placed in the formless book, the reward given by the formless book was that this drop of true blood could actually summon a tenth of its strength. It seemed that the willpower preserved by this drop of true blood was quite perfect. It could actually summon a full-powered true blood avatar. Zhou Zhou was very happy. When the reincarnation will saw this, a faint smile appeared on his face. At the same time, he felt a little emotional. This brother of his would always do, something that surprised him even more every time they met. He did not know how much his good brother would grow again the next they meet. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then he glanced at the battlefield below and saw that the war had ended. He said, "Let me help you resurrect your men." "Sorry to trouble you, brother." Zhou nodded. "Don't stand on ceremony." "With me?" The reincarnation will smiled and went down to revive. After he used his 6 paths of reincarnation sword to revive all the fallen god spirits, he returned to Zhou side and said, "I'll head back first since it's over." In addition, after the Moongazer Serpent's will reports to the Supreme. "Will, the Supreme will probably come to see you. You have to be prepared. Don't hesitate to ask for what you need. The Supreme will is still very good to his own people." The reincarnation will said. Zhou nodded. "Don't worry, brother." The reincarnation will nodded and turned to walk towards the Netherworld Gate. Huss saw the Netherworld Gate slowly open, and the reincarnation will walked in step by step. After his back completely disappeared into the Netherworld Gate, the towering Netherworld Gate slowly disappeared from the ultimate void battlefield. When Zhou saw this, he thought about what had happened today, and a smile appeared on his face. Today's harvest was quite good. There was naturally no need to mention the large army of god spirits that had instigated the Incite defection. The most important gains were naturally the full moon given to him by the Moongazer Serpents, will and the true blood given to him by his reincarnation brother. The trump cards that they had lost to deal with Meng. 2-0 had been doubled in just a short while. At this moment, Bai Yun flew over and said respectfully to Zhou, "Your Majesty, the battlefield has been cleaned up. Our next move is..." After some thought, Zhou said, "Keep going. First, we'll conquer this Luotong war territory. Then, starting from the Luotong war territory, we'll conquer every void mystic realm and every war territory we conquered today, until we've conquered all the void mystic realms." He still had an Incite defection of the Son of Destiny that was useless today. He happened to use the Son of Destiny on the way. "Yes, Your Majesty," Bai Yun said respectfully. Then he immediately returned and led his army to conquer the Kai's first void mystic realm in the Luo Tong War territories. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it was nighttime on High Continent. At this moment, Zhou Fight and they had already resolved all the void mystic realms and were returning to the planet where the Demon Lord's base was, inside a Grade 4 Supreme God spaceship. This spaceship was discovered by Zhou Fight and gang from the other party's main city treasury when they conquered a Grade 3 Ultimate Void City. After Zhou Fight found out, he set it as his exclusive spaceship on the spot. At this moment, Zhou Fight was sitting on the main seat in the captain's cabin, looking at the Lord's information in front of him. User, Lord of the Blazing Sun. Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army, Ultimate Void Battleground, the second leader of the Supreme Will Camp. Military merits, 240 million military merits. Mission medal, Adida Supreme God. Mission medals. Other rewards, 16 Universal Race Divine Artifacts, 20 Book of the God Spirit, Supreme God level. After Zhou Zhou read it, the corners of his lips curled up slightly. He had previously accepted a total of 20 missions from the Supreme God Realm Monument. Today, they had conquered a total of 4 Grade 1 Supreme God level battle territories, 3 Grade 2 Supreme God level war territories, and 1 Grade 3 Supreme God Realm war territories. He completed a total of 16 missions after conquering all the cities in the 8 battle territories and the Void Mystic Realm. There were only 4 missions left in the remaining 2 Grade 4 Supreme God battle territories that had not been completed, and it was these 16 missions that provided him with so many military merits, mission medals, racial divine artifacts, and the Book of the God Spirit. Now that I'm back, I can exchange for many good things. Now that I'm back, I can exchange for many good things. In 2 days, maybe I won't be here. It'd be a waste not to, Zhou Fight thought. After the 2 Grade 4 Supreme God level war, territories were conquered by him. The only war territories that did not belong to the Supreme Will on the entire Ultimate Void battlefield was the Sanctuary, guarded by the avatar of the Void Emperor. The war for the Sanctuary was obviously not something he, a Grade 1 Supreme God, could participate in. Zhou Fight asked Lord of 10,000 Evils and the rest to prepare the celebratory feast first, while he came to the Supreme God Realm Monument alone and opened it to begin the exchange. At the time, he might no longer be here, but fighting for the inheritance of the Yellow River's will in the land of inheritance, he shook his head and stopped thinking about it. An instant later, on the Demon Lord base planet, Zhou Fight asked Lord of 10,000 Evils and the rest to prepare the celebratory feast first, while he came to the Supreme God Realm Monument alone and opened it to begin the exchange. A moment later, Zhou Fight exchanged all his military merits and Supreme God mission medals. He glanced at the various races and divine artifacts in his #1 treasure vault, and a smile appeared on his face. After he had spent all his military merits and Supreme God level mission medals, he had exchanged for a total of 30 species divine artifacts. These 30 racial divine artifacts directly pulled the various nomological talents and nomological immunity of the Blazing Sun God race to an extremely high level. In terms of nomological talent, the subjects of the Blazing Sun God race under him had reached the nomological level of a God-tier species in terms of various main nomological talents. If the Blazing Sun God race wanted to become gods, they could easily advance to a God spirit with their extremely high nomological talent. The probability of advancing to a true God tier was also more than 50%. There was also a nearly 10% probability of advancing to a Master God tier. As for the nomological immunity of the Protoss, such as the immunity of the 5 elements, the immunity of the wind, lightning, light, darkness, and light, the immunity of magic and physics, the average immunity of various nomological immunities had also reached more than 50%. With the enhancement of the divine artifacts of these races, the Blazing Sun God race could be said to be the only God-tier species in the myriad worlds. Even the original Spirit race, the Chaos Gods race, and the Shepherd's God race at their peak could not compare to the current Blazing Sun God race. Now, my Blazing Sun God race can be called the #1 race in the myriad worlds. Zhou Fight nodded in satisfaction. Then, he took out a crystal that emitted a faint purple light. This was a racial divine artifact he had obtained from today's spoils of war. It was a racial divine artifact from the Ultimate Void race. Race divine artifact, Ultimate Void Heart. Top-notch race divine artifact. The exclusive race divine artifact of the Ultimate Void race. After the Lord places it in the territory, all the subjects under him will obtain the talent, Ultimate Void Travel. They can ignore the suppression of the ultimate void environment and freely travel through the ultimate void. After advancing to the God Spirit realm, they can also travel long distances in the ultimate void environment. After obtaining the ultimate void perception talent, living beings with this talent could sense ownerless treasures wandering in the ultimate void, as well as their exact location and general information. After obtaining the ultimate void immunity talent, one's personal defense ability has increased greatly, reducing the damage received by 20% of the ultimate void attribute. After obtaining the ultimate void heart talent, the talent of the subjects under him, the ultimate void law, has increased slightly. When they advance to the God Spirit realm, with the ultimate void law as the foundation, the probability of breaking through to the God Spirit realm will increase by 50%. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. This ultimate void heart was quite effective. Even though the various nomological talents and nomological immunity of the subject soldiers and God spirits under him had already reached an extremely high level, the innate talent and law resistance of the ultimate void law had always been 0. This was because he had never obtained the race divine artifact of the ultimate void race, including the Supreme God Realm Monument. This ultimate void heart was the first race divine artifact of the ultimate void race that he had obtained. It can make up for the lack of talent and law resistance of the subjects under me. What a good divine artifact. Zhou Fight was very satisfied with this racial divine artifact. This way, even if the subjects under him lived in the ultimate void in the future, they could live very well, especially when paired with the 2 innate abilities provided by this race divine artifact, ultimate void travel and ultimate void perception. It could completely allow the subjects under him to live very comfortably in the ultimate void. However, the prerequisite for all of this was that he first transformed this race divine artifact of the ultimate void race into the race divine artifact of the blazing sun god race. At the thought of this, Zhou Fight took out the common people's cauldron and threw the ultimate void heart in to accept the modification of the common people's cauldron. Soon, Zhou Fight felt that 10% of his luck had been stripped out of his total luck and fused into the common people's cauldron, turning into firewood for the common people's cauldron. He began to modify the ultimate void heart. He sensed the loss of his luck and could not help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Good God, it actually needed 10% of its total luck as fuel for modifying the racial divine artifact. This required a lot of luck. He had modified so many race divine artifacts, but this was the first time he had encountered someone who needed so much luck as firewood. Could this ultimate void heart not be a racial divine artifact in the supreme great cosmos, so it needed so much luck? Zhou Fight thought for a few seconds, but could not come up with an answer, so he did not think too much about it. What was the point of thinking so much? It was fine as long as it could be modified. A moment later, boom, a low and muffled sound was heard. The entire common people's cauldron shook slightly. Then the lid of the common people's cauldron opened automatically. A dark purple stream of light flew out and headed straight for Zhou Fight before stopping in front of him. At the same time, Zhou Fight also felt it. About 15% of the power of providence flew out from its surface and fused into his providence. Zhou Fight felt that his power of providence had expanded by more than half, and his eyes widened. Just this racial divine artifact actually increased. His total luck by so much? Exaggeration. This is too exaggerated. Zhou Fight was speechless. The providence he obtained from this enhancement was almost equivalent to the providence obtained by increasing the rank of a supreme lord. It could be seen how terrifying the amount of providence he had obtained was. Even though this racial divine artifact was a racial divine artifact of the ultimate void, it really bestowed him enough surprises. However, he was also a little strange. If the effect of the ultimate void heart was indeed good, it shouldn't give him so much luck, right? He contemplated for a while and stopped thinking about it if he couldn't think of an answer. In any case, he had already acquired his luck. Why was he thinking so much? Then he gazed at the modified racial divine artifact. The altered ultimate void heart did not change much. However, when Zhou Fight gazed at this racial divine artifact, he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It was as if it had gone from an unfamiliar item to a treasure that he could trust and use without worry. This was the most obvious modification characteristic of a race's divine artifact being converted into their race's divine artifact. Information about the divine artifact appeared. After reading it, Zhou Fight gazed satisfied, as expected of a racial divine artifact that he had spent a full 10% of his luck to successfully modify. The effect of the racial divine artifact actually did not suffer any damage after the modification. It completely retained the effect of all the divine artifacts of the original racial divine artifact. The transformation was simply perfect. After admiring it for a while, Zhou put away the ultimate void heart. Then, he opened the Supreme God Realm Monument and looked at it for a while. After reading it, he shook his head. He had almost exchanged for all the racial divine artifacts in the Supreme God Realm Monument. The remaining racial divine artifacts had ordinary effects. There were even some racial divine artifacts with negative effects. They did not suit Zhou wishes. He was not even willing to spend time and effort to obtain more military merits and mission medals to exchange for them. Wouldn't it be better if he had the time and energy to lead an army to conquer the various races in the myriad worlds and obtain more racial divine artifacts from the races? After conquering the 2 Grade 4 Supreme God War territories tomorrow, I'll spend all my military merits in Supreme God mission medals. Then I can leave here without any worries. Zhou thought when the time came, he could wait for his main body's orders and be prepared to devote himself to the competition for the inheritance of the Yellow River's will at any time. Then he didn't stay any longer. He turned around and walked towards the venue of the celebration ceremony. In the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou Zhou was sitting cross-legged on the Tao Comprehension Futon, comprehending the Lord's laws. Now that his will had already reached the late-stage will-divine transformation realm, this level of will was already very high. However, his divine spirit realm was still at the level of a Grade 1 Supreme God. It was seriously incompatible with his will realm. Therefore, Zhou Zhou's current plan was to first raise his Supreme God realm before advancing his willpower and cultivation to break through to the Supreme Will realm at the same time. Now, Zhou Zhou's comprehension of the Lord's laws was so high that even an ordinary God spirit or a Supreme Willpower realm expert could not compare to him. Therefore, Zhou Zhou was confident that he could raise his God spirit realm in a short period of time with his superb comprehension. He suddenly sensed something and slowly opened his eyes. Then he looked at the personal terminal on his right wrist. A report that had just been sent was displayed on the terminal. It was the summary that Zero had just summarized about the total profits of today's war. He looked over. Under the combined efforts of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom Army and the army on the Ultimate Void battlefield, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom had eliminated a total of 121 beginner-level Divine Kingdom Lord factions, 88 intermediate Grade Divine Kingdom Lord factions, 41 Advanced Divine Kingdom Lord factions, and 9 Overlord-level Lord factions. In addition, on the Ultimate Void battlefield, the enemies that Zhou and Lord of 10,000 Evils had destroyed in the 8 war territories and the Ultimate Void army led by Meng Tuo, they had killed a total of more than 900 billion God spirits, more than 100 billion true God tiers, more than 800,000 Master God tiers, more than 900 Supreme Gods, and 16 Quasi-Supreme Willpower Realm experts. After collating the statistics, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom had obtained a total of about 1 Guy unit Mist core of various levels, origin crystals, skill books, equipment, and basic materials. Green Bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. From capital units, 2,372,297, 374, 629, 346, 1,388 units of chaos, divine treasure. 30x to your 7th, 482, legendary tier, and below Lord Talent spheres. A large number of Lord Talent crystal fragments of other levels. There were also 3 Guy units, 3,708, 4,230, 239,000. Divine crystals from low level to high tier deity level, 176,372 to 306,237. True God tier divine crystals. 5,238 to 481,274,867. Master God tier divine crystals on 12,973 to 287. Grade 1 to Grade 3. Supreme God divine crystals. Capital units 8,234, 7,120,000 low level to high tier deity level divine artifacts. 123, 332,317, 30,000. True God tier divine artifacts. 189,238, 972. Master God tier divine artifacts. 603,281. Supreme God divine artifacts. There were about 51 capital units with a total of 2,397,110,000 divine spark fragments. God tier herbs, God tier ingredients, God tier ores, God tier blueprints, and other treasures. 293,728, 371, 287. Master. God tier herbs, God tier ingredients, God tier ores, God tier blueprints, and other treasures. 72,128,121. Supreme God level God tier herbs, God tier ingredients, God tier ores, God tier blueprints, and other treasures. In terms of incite defection, through Land of Earth, a minister of the king, Zhou Fight had induced a total of 218,912,932,381 ultimate void god spirits, 3,382, 383,821 ultimate void true god tiers, 103,173 ultimate void master god tiers, and 111 ultimate void supreme gods. Then, in the process of conquering the void mystic realm, through the Son of Destiny, the incite defection reached 18,723, 892, 381. Ordinary God Spirits, 428, 930 to 1,128. True Gods, 3,121. Master Gods, and 5 Supreme Gods. In addition, the Lords of the Star. Alliance had also instigated 712 capital unit soldiers, more than 3.312 billion God Spirits, more than 2 million True God tiers, and 512 Master Gods. In the end, in terms of the advancement of God Spirits, there were a total of 312,328,371,862 legendary tier advanced grade soldiers who had advanced to low tier deity level elementary grade God Spirits. There were also 7,217,170 high tier deity level advanced grade God Spirits who had advanced to true God tier elementary grade God Spirits. Another 7,213 top-notch true gods of the human race and 32,313 top-notch true gods of the people of foreign races sensed their master god tier bottleneck and applied to enter the reincarnation sacred palace to cultivate in seclusion to try to break through to the master god tier realm. Moreover, there were 6 master god tier advanced grade god spirits, including Pangu, Ancestor Lu, Buddha Lord, and the others who felt their advancement bottleneck. They were also prepared to enter the reincarnation sacred palace today and advance to a grade 1 supreme god. If nothing went wrong, he would officially break through tomorrow. Zhou Zhou's original military strength was 1 Guy Unit 9110 capital units, 7 312, 349, 172, 638, 978 soldiers, 249, 239, 699, 994 God Spirits, 737, 783, 439 True Gods, 95, 431 Master Gods, and 55 Supreme Gods. Now, with the addition of these divine spirit experts who had instigated the incite defection, and the 5 Supreme Gods and 15 Master Gods recruited from the chaotic mystic realm, the military strength under him had achieved 1 Guy unit, 1,010 capital units, 731,283,000 soldiers, 248,573, 699,994 God Spirits, 7,357, 117, 439 True God tier, 82,9997 Master Gods, and 53 Supreme Gods. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction after reading it. The improvement today was also huge. In terms of ordinary God Spirits alone, it had more than tripled, from more than 250 billion to nearly 800 billion. The total number of true gods had also doubled, from more than 7 billion to more than 14 billion. The number of master gods had increased from more than 90,000 to 200,000. The number of supreme gods had tripled from 55 to 176. Other than the number of ordinary soldiers, everything else has doubled, Zhou Zhou thought. In addition, below this war report was the gains from the Chaos Divine Treasure of the Time Ruins. The management of the Chaos Sea had bought 220 units of Chaos Divine Treasures from the Divine Kingdom Lord factions that collected Chaos Divine Treasures in the Time Ruins. He originally had 1,882 units of Chaos Divine Treasures. Now, with these 220 units of Chaos Divine Treasures and the Chaos Divine Treasures obtained from the Ultimate Void Battlefield, it added up to 3,490 units of Chaos Divine Treasures. In a day or two, I can gather 5,000 units of Chaos Divine Treasures to upgrade my territory and advance to a high-level Divine Kingdom Lord faction. Zhou Zhou nodded. Right at that moment, a female figure emitting boundless, pure white light appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he hurriedly stood up and said respectfully, "Greetings, Lord Supreme Will." Zhou Zhou. The Supreme Will looked at Zhou Zhou with a smile on his lips and satisfaction in his eyes. "I saw your performance today. When the matter of the Ultimate Void Battlefield is completely over, I will upgrade your ranking to the 3rd Reserve Army of the Supreme Lord. Thank you, Supreme Will." Zhou Zhou was delighted and immediately said, The Supreme Will smiled and said solemnly, I already know that Meng Tuo brought his intention and treasures to assassinate you. Fortunately, you have the reincarnation will by your side to interact with the will of the moon-gazer serpent that I sent over. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. I'll definitely make that Void Emperor pay the price for breaking the rules. After you conquer the last 2 Grade 4 Supreme God-level war territories, I'll personally lead the troops to attack the Ultimate Void Sanctuary and completely expel the Ultimate Void race from our Ultimate Void battlefield. I'll personally eliminate the Void Emperor. After the Void Emperor dies, you can choose one of the treasures he has as compensation for your danger this time. The Supreme Will smiled and said something that stunned Zhou Zhou. Could the Supreme Will be so domineering? Killing a willpower expert was actually as normal as killing a chicken, and it was for him? Zhou Zhou was not someone who was easily moved. However, it had to be said that he sensed some waves in his heart after he heard the Supreme Will's words. At this moment, the Supreme Will suddenly smiled and said, Why don't you join us in suppressing the Ultimate Void race? Zhou Zhou trembled and hurriedly said, I'd better not participate in this. With the Supreme Will taking action, victory will definitely be easy. Even if I participate, it's probably useless. How can I do that? The Supreme Will smiled and shook his head. You deserve the credit for getting to where you are today. Now that I'm going to collect the final victory, wouldn't it be a pity if you didn't come? Zhou Zhou was about to say something when he suddenly reacted and smiled bitterly. Lord Supreme Will, please don't joke about me. You know how I am. I've never wanted to participate in wars that are far above my level. The battle to attack the Ultimate Void Race's sanctuary will definitely let Supreme Willpower experts participate. You might even personally participate and fight the Void Emperor. I don't want to participate for the sake of my life. Moreover, I still have to go to the Yellow River in 3 days to participate in the competition for the inheritance of the Twilight Will. I'm too busy to participate in your war, even with my clones. The Supreme Will rolled his eyes at him. Now, everyone with a little status in the myriad worlds knew that the clone technique of the common people's regal was unparalleled. One of the 2 clones, Joe Marshall and Joe Fight, was about to conquer the entire High Continent. The other clone was only 2 Grade 4 Supreme God war territories away from conquering the entire Ultimate Void battlefield. Even though the other clones were not as famous as these 2 clones, they had still reached an extremely high level in their respective domains. Clone technique? Then how would the other experts who were good at cloning evaluate their clone techniques? Useless? He understood Zhou Zhou's personality and was just saying this to tease this guy. He then said, It's not bad if you participate in the inheritance of the will of the Yellow River. You can get to know the enemies of the illusionist clan and understand them. You will have to deal with them in the future as one of my successors. The illusionist clan. Zhou Zhou muttered this name in his heart. He had long heard of this race. However, they had yet to have any actual contact. Unlike the God King Heaven Punishment, the Spring and Autumn Dharma Lord and Lord of 10,000 Evils, they, who had already fought with the illusionist clan, especially the God King Heaven Punishment, according to the information that Lord of 10,000 Evils told him, ever since God King Heaven Punishment became the first reserve army of the Supremes. Lord, he had been stationed in the Land of Dusk all year round and had been fighting with the illusionist clan until now. In terms of understanding of the illusionary race, God King Heaven Punishment was number 1. In the myriad worlds, other than the Supreme Will, the other existences probably knew much less about the illusionary race than the God King Heaven Punishment. In that case, he still had a lot to catch up to in this aspect. Thinking of this, Joe could not help but look forward to the competition for the Yellow River's will inheritance in 3 days. At the same time, the Supreme Will looked at Zhou Zhou's expression and thought for a moment before saying, How much do you know about the illusionist clan? Not much, Zhou Zhou said truthfully. The information he came into interaction with was all from others. He had never seen the real illusionist clan with his own eyes. If the legendary tier was true, then the Supreme Will and the Heaven Curse saw Beast should be considered the illusionist clan. The Supreme Will shook his head slightly and said, Then I'll tell you briefly about the circumstance of the illusionist clan. The illusionist clan is a very strange race. The world they live in is actually dominated by common life forms, without any supernatural powers. The illusionist clan was born in the imagination of common life forms. Therefore, the illusionist clan is also known as a delusional creature in the mouths of those life forms. If this statement were to spread, it would probably shock all the god spirits in the myriad worlds. The the ruler of a top world with extraordinary tier life forms that were not inferior to the Supreme Great Cosmos, and the Crimson Great Cosmos was actually a group of common life forms without extraordinary tier power. It was unbelievable just thinking about it. However, Zhou Zhou had learned about the Illusionist clan from Lord of 10,000 Evils beforehand, so he was not too surprised. Even though he wasn't too shocked, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. There was actually such a world in this world. The Supreme Will said, "Do you still remember what I told you before? We and the Illusionist clan are basically two races that are natural enemies, or rather, all the creatures in the universe and the Ultimate Void environment are actually two races that are fundamentally hostile to the Illusionist clan." "I remember." Zhou Zhou nodded. The Supreme Will nodded and said, "That's the reason. Because the Illusionist clan was born out of nothingness. The will in them exists. If they want to advance to the eternal immortal realm, they have to break through the illusions and prove that they are real. Then they have to merge reality and illusion to advance to the eternal immortal realm. There's only one way to do this at the moment. That is to intrude the genuine world, which is the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos where we are. As long as they conquers the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos we're in, Ultimate Void can complete the unification of reality and illusion. The strong willpower practitioners of they can easily advance to the eternal realm. As for us, true, life forms in the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos, we will lose our source of existence and silently disappear from this universe, never to appear again. Simply put, the Illusionist clan wants to use our existence to exchange for the resources for the willpower of them to advance to the eternal realm. That's why we must stand firm against each other's invasion, and why the other party must insist on invading our universe," the Supreme Will said solemnly. Zhou Zhou nodded calmly. Even though he had a rough understanding of the internal affairs of this aspect through the mouth of Lord of 10,000 Evils, his heart still felt very heavy when he heard the Supreme Will's detailed explanation. The Illusionist clan wanted to take away the foundation of them. Once the other party successfully completed their plan, they would be like a group of people who had been struck by the law of instant death. They would definitely die immediately without any chance of survival. His eyes emitted a cold glint. These guys actually wanted to harm him. He definitely could not allow them to continue doing this. To be honest, if it was in the past, after hearing the Supreme Will's words, even if he felt that the situation was critical, he would not take the initiative to do anything. The previous him did not have the ability to do anything, let alone resist the invasion of the illusionary race after all. It was good enough that he could keep himself safe. However, he was already a Grade 1 Supreme God. In terms of combat strength, not many God spirits would refute that he was the number 1 Supreme God below the Supreme Will Realm. Moreover, he would advance to the Supreme Will Realm sooner or later, or even to the Will Realm. In other words, it was just a matter of time before the Illusionist clan appeared in front of Zhou Zhou and threatened his safety. At 15, at that time, he would also have the ability to contribute to resist the invasion of the illusionary race. Therefore, Zhou Zhou's current thoughts were considered precautionary. In the battle for the inheritance of the will of the Yellow River, the experts of the Illusionist clan will attack. We'll see what the Illusionist clan can do when the time comes, Zhou Zhou thought. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked, "Since the Illusionist clan is the enemy of our Ultimate Void Great Cosmos, why don't any experts from other universes come to help us resist the invasion of the Illusionist clan? As far as I know, we seem to have been fighting alone ever since the Illusionist clan invaded our universe. What's this all about?" "There are 2 reasons for this," the Supreme Will said. The first reason: a long time ago, when the Illusionist clan first invaded the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos we were in, we just learned that there was another world outside our Ultimate Void Great Cosmos. Like the Yin-Yang Pisces, it was completely different from our universe, but it existed interdependently. It took us a long time to realize the evil intentions of the Illusionist clan. In order to deal with their invasion, a great existence summoned us and asked us to discuss how to deal with the invasion of the Illusionist clan. Great existence? Zhou? Zhou was stunned. Yes. The Supreme Will nodded slightly. That was a great existence at the eternal immortal realm. He is an existence that has been cultivated to the eternal immortal realm by himself. However, that existence has already left our Ultimate Void Great Cosmos. As for where he went, we still don't know. Zhou Zhou nodded. The Supreme Will continued seeing this. It was that meeting that made us realize how terrifying the Illusionist clan is. That was because the Illusionist clan can be deeply rooted in our imagination just by our discussion and communication. Then, They can come to our ultimate void universe directly from our imagination. It was a great catastrophe. The great being did not choose to intervene at the time. Or perhaps it's because the other party didn't send out any eternal realm experts that the great existence didn't attack. Later on, we lost a large number of supreme willpower experts, and more than 100 willpower experts before we completely wiped out the illusionist clan in our universe. After this battle, our vitality was greatly damaged. It took us 1,000,000 years to recover. It was also because of that catastrophe that we realized that the existence of the illusionist clan could not be discussed easily. The more we discuss, the easier it is for terrifying people like them to be born into our imagination. The stronger the existence discussed, the stronger the experts of the illusionist clan will be. We have since made a rule. It's forbidden to discuss publicly about the illusionist clan. Even if they discussed it in private, they would not allow it. At most, they would think in their own minds. Even if our universe is invaded by the illusionist clan, we can't make this matter public. Instead, we can try our best to resolve it independently. Only when we can't resolve it alone can we ask the experts of the other universes to help us. Furthermore, we can't look for external help on a large scale. We can only look for it on a small scale. This is to prevent us from knowing that too many experts from the illusionist clan have appeared, causing the illusionist clan to descend on a large scale and cause a second catastrophe. It's precisely because of this rule that the various universes of our ultimate void race have become almost isolated existences. We barely communicate with each other, communicate and meet unless necessary or at a fixed point in time. That's just the first reason. The second reason is the illusionist clan itself. The illusionist clan can't descend on a large scale and invade our ultimate void great cosmos without external guidance. They can at most take the initiative to invade our illusionary great cosmos on a small scale. A small number of troops made them not dare to start a war with our entire ultimate void cosmos. Instead, they could only choose one of our targets to start a war with. It's also because of this that they doesn't want to spread the news of them invading a large universe to attract experts from other universes to come and help. Therefore, a willpower expert among them, who were good at hiding their fate, used illusionary mystic technique to turn our supreme great cosmos and the crimson great cosmos into a universe that could not send news out. Even I can't crack their mystic technique. Once I leave the coverage of the supreme great cosmos and the crimson great cosmos, I will even forget that my great cosmos was invaded by the illusionist clan. The same goes for the crimson overlord. Even the void emperor who invaded our great cosmos and the ultimate void army under him will remember that our great cosmos was invaded by the illusionist clan in the ultimate void battlefield. But once they leave the ultimate void battleground, they will immediately forget about the illusionist clan and think that they are invading our universe normally. There will be no memory of the invasion of the illusionist clan in his memory. The illusionist clan is so powerful that they can even hide your memory. Zhou Zhou could not help but look forward to it. Their divine system is very special. Even though I'm confident that I'm considered a top-notch powerhouse among the wills, I can't do anything about their divine abilities. The Supreme Will shook his head. What's this divine system of theirs? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. The Lord of 10,000 Evils didn't tell him, conceptual God. The Supreme Will said,